All right. Hello, everyone. Let me check the volume here because sometimes the volume is too loud and it just glitches. I got such a weird little angle going on. Let's see what we got. We're just going to work with it. Happy belated Valentine's Day. Y'all see, I got my little rinky dink Valentine decoration up in the background. And yes, it's all about love. How was your Valentine's Day? I had a wonderful Valentine's Day. I didn't have a Valentine, but someone did send me flowers. I guess technically they could be considered my Valentine, but not really. Just a new friend who thought enough of me to send me some roses. And I was just pleasantly surprised. I thought that was really sweet. So yes, happy belated Valentine's Day to you. I love love. I love the celebration of love. I love self love. Love is a wonderful thing. So, any reason to celebrate it is, welcome by me. And for those who don't know me, my name is Tinisha Brugnone. I am the author of the book Pimpette Chronicles, a modern Black woman's guide to dating safely and navigating these mean streets. And I am doing a reading of the book virtually. I decided to go through the whole book and read it because I didn't put out an audio book, but I thought it'd be cool just to, just kind of go through it and read it for those who have not had a chance to buy the book or for those who, are just a little curious as to what the book entails. So this gives you a glimpse into the book. And if you get impatient and you want to order it, or you just become inclined to do so, you can purchase this book, Pimpette Chronicles, a modern Black woman's guide to dating safely and navigating these mean streets. It is available on Amazon, also Barnes and Noble rather, and Madu Bookstore in Atlanta, and also 27 Letter Bookstore on Michigan Ave in Southwest Detroit. I am a native Detroiter, and this is where I'm based. So it is in our local bookstore. Again, that's 27th bookstore, 27th Letter Bookstore on Michigan Ave. They have the book in stock there. All right. So the last time I was with you guys was actually 8 days ago. I don't know how time flew by so fast, but it did. And I stopped on halfway through chapter 3, and I just want to continue with the reading from chapter 3, which starts off with the section entitled Getting to Know Him. And I have my tea here. I'm just going to take a sip of my tea before I get into this because this can be a little taxing. So bear with me. Drinking nettle tea. I'm trying to grow my nails out. I usually keep my nails really, really short, but I decided to get a little more fancy and let them grow out. Doing good so far. And nettle tea and castor oil have been doing wonders. So if you want to grow your nails out, and also it works well on your eyelashes, get some organic castor oil. Seems to be working wonderfully. Okay. Getting to know him. It's always exciting to meet someone new and begin to build a connection. When you are getting to know a potential mate, remember that they are always going to first introduce you to their representative. This is the person that they want the world to see them as and not completely who they are. This being will show you all of the good in him, his absolute best qualities. Most believe that it usually takes at least 3 months for that person to let their guard down and start sharing the not so great parts about them. I believe it to be 6 months in these modern times. Pay close attention during this stage to get an idea of who you are really dealing with. Again, I believe it takes at least 6 months. And I believe psychiatrists also say 6 months. So that 3 month rule, that's not enough time to get to know someone. First, I want you to learn exactly what type of social life he already has. What does he do for fun? And who does he spend his time with? Depending on the age and status of the potential mate, he may have friends he spends a lot of time with or friends he seldom sees. If he is dedicated to upward mobility, it will be apparent. I have learned that men who are focused on building a legacy or making money tend to surround themselves with people who either have it or are on the same mission. Are you familiar with the saying, birds of a feather flock together? This is true in all aspects of life. Okay, what is page 1 to stuck together? There we go. If you start to notice that he and his friends are sitting around cursing, drinking, and high all the time, it is likely that that is what he will continue to do. If his friends always have a new girl around, take note of that too. That does not mean your fella is the same, but just observe how your dude responds to these women and situations. Does he seem to think this behavior is good or bad, or is he indifferent? If the man discuss investments or ways to make money, then that will most likely always be his main focus. If he is community oriented, that will be what drives him as well. Remember, the type of man you choose is a direct reflection of you, and during the relationship, you are destined to take on some of his traits and vice versa. Now, is it possible to meet a man, depending on his age, and introduce him to new things that may steer him away from the friends if they are the go nowhere and do nothing types? Absolutely, but for how long? Most of us over 30 will start to analyze our circle and the people we spend our time with. It's okay to hang out and kick it with friends at any age, but just be sure that the man you choose is serious minded and about his business first and foremost. Your goal should always be to surround yourself with people who are doing positive things in their lives. Another very important thing I take note of when getting to know a potential mate is his relationship with the women in his world. This includes his mother, sister, daughters, etc. You can learn a lot about a man by the way he treats his mother. A man who has no respect for his mom will most likely not have any respect for you. This does not necessarily mean to exclude men who were not raised by their mother for whatever reason. This means to be mindful of the reasons and how he speaks to and relates to her. On the other hand, also be wary of men who are in emotionally and sexually incestual relationships with their mother. I said it wrong the first time. Incestual relationships with their mothers. Oh, did my light just go out on me? It sure did. I don't know why that happened. These men tend to seek approval from their mommies and will often reference their mom as a role model or prototype for what they want their woman to be like. He may even say childish things like, my mama will always come first, or ain't nobody more important than mama, etc. At that moment, you need to decide if you want to compete with his mommy for the rest of your life. As an emotionally balanced woman, you will understand that you would never put your man in a position where he has to choose between his mother, daughter, sister, or you. So hearing such ridiculous comments from a grown ass man lets you know that you and him ain't even on the same wavelength. Your man should be wise enough not to pit you against the other women in his life, and that those relationships are to be honored and respected alongside, yet separately from his relationship with you. Never should you feel you are in competition, and if you start to feel that way, step back and let her have him. The second relationship you should be observant of is his relationship with the mother of his children. Does he speak badly about her or talk down on her? Does he constantly complain about her? Is he even in his children's lives? How often does he see them? These questions will give you enormous insight into this man's character. If he is the type to say nasty things about the mother of his children, do not engage or encourage it. We understand that not all relationships end well, and there may have been very specific reasons why they ended you may not know, that you may not need to know right away. But regardless, a man with any amount of good character will be reluctant to speak ill of the mother of his children. If he needs to discuss the issues he has with the mother of his children, encourage him to do so with a counselor or the minister of his church. That definitely should not be your role in his life. Remember, there are always two sides to every story, and if she is an issue, you will learn in due time. But for now, while you're getting to know him, discourage the baby mama drama by not engaging. If he brings it up, simply change the subject. You are not his therapist. As time progresses, you will learn all you need to know, and once you are a family, it will be appropriate to discuss the ex to an extent, but still discourage disrespect. Additionally, please pay close attention to how he responds to stress or express his anger. Is he constantly beefing with someone? Does he have road rage? Is he rude to the wait staff or other people in front of you? Does he appear to want to be dominant over others? Is he calm one moment and flying off the handle the next? Does he exhibit hypermasculinity type behaviors? Is he homophobic or misogynistic? Remember, when men are not secure with their masculinity, they will always look for ways to assert dominance and prove that they are manly. These types of men are usually loud, obnoxious, attention seeking, and weak. They are quick to dismiss you and do not value perspectives that empower or uplift women. If they come across a social media post pointing out a common male flaw, they will immediately point out a female one, as if it somehow erases the previous one. Some of these men will even go as far as to describe themselves as the notorious alpha male. Just know if a man has to call himself an alpha, then he definitely ain't one. These fellas generally make the worst types of mates. When they fail at home, work, or school, etc., they will look for someone to dominate and blame. In relationships, it will always be their woman. After all, if you have little or no control over the other aspects of your life, what easier way to seek validation than to assert yourself over the woman who loves you? Lastly, let's talk about let's talk some more about abusive relationships. As mentioned previously, 1 in 4 women will find themselves experiencing some form of abuse. So let's also note that homicide is the second leading cause of death of Black females aged 1 to 19. And for Black women aged 20 to 44, it is the fourth in the US. So let's repeat that. The second cause of death for Black females aged 1 to 19 is homicide. The fourth leading cause of death for Black women ages 20 to 44 is homicide in the United States. Okay, I want you guys to really think about that. It is a sad fact that the majority of the victims fall prey to someone who claimed to have loved them. While most of us know that if he hits you once, he will hit you again, let's also acknowledge that any form of abuse damages you as a whole. Verbal abuse, also known as emotional abuse, can leave you broken and questioning your self-worth, though it is often harder to know that you are being abused. Verbally abusive men are often hypercritical and will make you feel like you can't do anything right. He will insult you out of the blue and pretend that he is just joking. And if you bring it to his attention, he will say that you are being sensitive or overreacting. Abusers often ignore boundaries, invade your privacy, are possessive and controlling, and are dismissive of your feelings. These types of men have an ultimate goal to manipulate, intimidate, and gain power over you. Any emotionally mature man will not desire to control another human being. Be wary of anyone who tries to assert dominance in your life in any regard. Protecting yourself. In my lifetime, I have gotten to know many types of people, including dope men, scholars, pimps, hoes, politicians, preachers, and so on. What I have learned is that everything is not always as it seems, and people often have a masterful way of hiding their true selves. Excuse me. I have found those who lack what some would consider good character were sometimes those whom society may deem the most trusting. Often our biggest threat comes from the ones who appear to be harmless or the ones that others hold in the highest esteem. Is it uncommon to hear of the preacher being caught molesting the children at the church or the police officer killing his wife? Since often folks who mean us no good have spent a lifetime hiding their true selves, what should you do if you meet or end up with Mr. Hyde? For those of you who are really young, Google Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Okay. The fact that 72% of murder suicides involve an intimate partner and 94% of these victims are women, according to the National Coalition for Against Domestic Violence, sheds light on just how important prevention is when it comes to protecting yourself. I'm going to repeat that again for y'all. 72% of murder suicides involve an intimate partner, and 94% of these victims are women. Okay? When taking a closer look at intimate partner homicides, 20% of those victims were not even the partners, but family members, friends, neighbors, persons who intervened, law enforcement responders, or bystanders. That means that the type of people we bring into our lives could not only be a threat to ourselves, but also to those around us. When analyzing this problem as a whole, I believe that avoiding those who are more likely to cause issues later down the line is our best defense from becoming one of these statistics. So don't start none, won't be none. It has been said that men take rejection a lot worse than women, and many men will openly admit that they cannot handle half of the pain that they often willingly and carelessly dish out to the women in their lives. If a man commits adultery, he is likely forgiven, but even in this so called modern day and age, women are ostracized and villainized, as in the case of Jada P. and Will. Men and women often cannot fathom the thought of a woman doing what men have been doing for centuries. Just think how there have been numerous songs for decades that openly suggest murder as a suitable punishment for a woman stepping out on her man. But if the song was about a man who had been caught cheating, the song would most likely suggest forgiveness and redemption. This is what we call programming, okay? It is no secret that violence is literally embedded in the fabric of this patriarchal society we call America. So it should not be surprising how little women are valued, protected, and respected, especially Black women. With this knowledge, it is not only our duty, but our right to protect ourselves. Often we hear stories and wonder why the victim did not leave earlier, why no one intervened, or how they missed those notorious red flags we love to talk about. But like most situations in life, sometimes you don't know who you are dealing with until it's too late. Too many times we blame the victim, but we rarely take a close look at the society that makes it far too easy for many of us to become victimized. I personally am not one to operate from a place of victimhood, and I believe in empowerment in all situations. Most of us consider ourselves good judges of character, but one must acknowledge that you can never put anything past anyone. So the question remains, how do you prevent getting into a situation that may not be so easy to get out of? My answer is to always have an exit strategy. This should actually begin the moment you start dating someone. Naively, many of us dream of what type of life we would have with that person or what kind of wedding we would throw. Instead of all the fairy tales, I have found it even more useful to develop and start thinking of ways to get rid of the dude if the relationship goes sour or if he becomes a threat. Some of the men who come across in life, let me say that again. My house is making all types of noises. Some of the men we come across in life may require an exit plan as simple as telling him you are no longer interested and maybe blocking the number. But in extreme cases, you may have to move your residence completely. I know the latter may seem crazy, but if death by homicide was not the second and fourth leading cause of death for Black females, with most perpetrators likely to have been someone who was supposed to love them, this subject would not need to be addressed. Jaded lovers have too often become many of our realities, and it matters little what level of life experience, education, or economic status you are in. Okay, and we are going to, let's see, we're 18 minutes. We're going to go into a story. Oh, chapter 3 is very long. That's okay. It's called Not All Fairy Tales Come True. Cynthia was a beautiful 58-year-old mother of 2 college-age students when she ran into her crush from high school, Leon. He was as handsome and smooth as she remembered him being so many years ago. Cynthia, now a registered nurse, had done very well for herself in her life. She had a beautiful home in the suburbs and owned several very nice vintage sports cars. Okay, no, I had to get up, and that was creepy because I heard something in my kitchen, but it's just the wind blowing up against the window. To the window, to this. Okay, but anyway, this is just tea. I promise you, I'm just being silly. Let's start over with Cynthia, and it's called Not All Fairy Tales Come True. Cynthia was a beautiful 58-year-old mother of 2 college-age students when she ran into her crush from high school, Leon. He was as handsome and smooth as she remembered him being so many years ago. Cynthia, now a registered nurse, had done very well for herself in her life. She had a beautiful home in the suburbs and owned several nice vintage sports cars. After going through a divorce and dealing with her now ex husband's infidelity, she was ready to get back into dating. In high school, as an awkward teen, she never had a chance to get to know Leon. Now, so many decades later, it felt like destiny. Their first conversation flowed so effortlessly, and he made her feel like she was a teen all over again. He told her that he worked at a factory and that he too had just divorced. He soon would reveal that he was paying a shipload of child support for his four children that his wife was keeping from him, and he had to downsize to a small apartment downtown. He said the divorce had destroyed him financially, but he would be back on top in no time. Being financially secure, Cynthia didn't care about his economic status and said she didn't need a man for his money and was more than capable of taking care of herself. As the months passed, Leon would bring her roses and they would go on walks by the Riverwalk holding hands. He began claiming her as his girlfriend, and Cynthia was honored to have caught the attention of someone who was once one of the most popular guys in high school. After just 6 months of dating, he asked her to marry him, and she accepted. She felt lucky to have nabbed this sweet romantic guy so soon after divorcing. They went to Vegas and eloped before her children had even met him. They were both getting older, so there was no need for delay, they said upon their return. Excuse me. Leon moved into Cynthia's house and immediately things changed. The first thing he did was sell off her sports cars because he felt they were a waste of money since she rarely drove them. Next, he put her kids' belongings in storage in the basement because he said they rarely visited, so why should they have an entire bedroom to themselves? Having grown up with the notion of the man leading the house, Cynthia agreed with his decision. Her children came home to learn that they no longer had their own space and immediately did not like Leon. They told their mother that something was off about him. On weekends, Leon insisted on taking Cynthia with him to the casino to reassure her that he was not a cheater like his ex. But after she started complaining about the amount of time he spent there, he would just go along. Sometimes he would come home angry and reeking of alcohol, and that's when the arguing would start. As time went on, she would soon learn that his marriage ended because had a gambling problem. And she would also learn that the money he received from her cars he blew at the casino instead of putting it in a joint account like he said. Then the physical abuse started. It began with just a smack he swore he would never. Okay. It began with just a smack he swore would never happen again, but then it progressed to him once choking her until she was unconscious. She awoke to him holding her and crying. He begged her not to leave him like everyone else in his life had done. She said only if he went to get help, he agreed. Leon promised never to hurt her again and agreed to attend domestic abuse prevention classes. Eventually, he stopped going, and again, the abuse started. One day, she went to work, and a coworker noticed a bruise on her arm. That's when Cynthia broke down and confessed. She said she was embarrassed that she was almost 60 years old and getting beat by her husband. In all the 30 plus years of her first marriage, she said that her first husband had never laid a hand on her. Had she known that physical abuse was an alternative to a cheating spouse, she would have stayed with the cheater. In tears, Cynthia cried that she could not believe that she had gotten herself into this, especially so late in life. The coworker told her how she too had experienced abuse and urged her to leave. She wanted to make Cynthia realize how bad her situation could become, but Cynthia did not see it. Cynthia said she was not going to leave everything she worked so hard for behind and that he was the one who would have to go. She begged her coworker never to tell a soul. Oops. One day, Cynthia and Leon got into another argument, but we will never know what it was about because this time Leon did not hit or choke Cynthia. Instead, he pulled out a 5mm Glock, chased her out of the house, and murdered her on her front lawn. He then turned the gun on himself and blew his brains out. Because Leon had nothing to lose, he had no problem taking everything away from Cynthia, including her life. It's easy for us to sit back and judge, say she ignored the red flags, say she should have just left, say all the things we think we would do if ever in this situation. But in no way could any of us say that Cynthia wanted her children to one day have to bury their own mother. Okay. So this is 24 minutes in, and we're going to stop there. And we may resume a little later today or maybe tomorrow. And our next section is on exit strategy. How do you get out of a bad situation? And that is chapter 3, page 69. So if you want to order your book, you can have it tomorrow. It's available on Amazon, like I mentioned before, at Barnes & Noble's 27th Letter Bookstore on Michigan Avenue in Detroit, Michigan, and also Madu Bookstore in Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you for joining me for another reading of Pimpette Chronicles, a modern Black woman's guide to dating safely and navigating these mean streets. My name is Tinisha Brugnone, and this concludes our reading for today. Have a good day and talk to you later.